Okay, we're on record.
Wonderful. Okay, you want to take the phone off mute so you can hear us on the phone lines as well? And I'll do a short introduction. Okay, good morning, everyone. This is our finance webinar. I've been sending out some emails to let everybody know that this year we've got 2 online systems. If you're a school district, you're going to use CASA. If you're a community group, you're going to use Iowa Grants. However, no matter which online system you're going to use, we're still going to use the same claim forms and put them online along with your general ledger. And we've made a few changes to those claim forms, and Deb Schroeder is here to explain that to you. And Abdi's here in case you guys have any questions about the process. And so we'll turn it over to Deb.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go through a really quick slide presentation, and I also have the claim form and the professional development activity report that will pop up on my computer, and we'll just kind of go through the mechanics of what you're going to file. We want to ask that you save your questions for the end, but you can write them down, put them in the chat box, but we'll unmute everyone at the, well, however, I'm new to Zoom, so Vic's gonna walk through how to go about asking the question and answer thing when we get there. But the presentation should be very short, and then we'll have a lot of time for question and answer afterwards. So basically, you've all been sent claims. Everybody put your phones on mute. Thank you for the reminder. Or can I do that?
No, that's fine.
How do I do it?
Oh, we can't put the phones on mute.
Okay.
The Zoom, when they're on Zoom, they're already muted.
Okay, you're all muted if you're on Zoom. You have to do your own mute if you're on the phone. And they've all received at least one version of the claim form. Right, so Abdi had sent you an original claim form. There have been a few updates, and we'll be sending those out to you later today. What I'm going to show you is what the new claim form that you'll receive later today. It has a few more revisions, just updates to help make it easier for you to use the spreadsheet and make it more difficult for you to break it. So we'll get started. So today is all about just using the Excel claim form. One thing, the claim forms that you get have protection enabled on them. So this is just an example. If you had tried to, I hope you can see my cursor. If you had tried to enter a number in the budget column where it's circled in red, you'll get an error message that says the cell that you're trying to type in is on a protected sheet and you can't make a change to that. And we're going to show you in further down in doing line item adjustments about how you update your budget. So for those of you who might say, oh, I need to change my budget when Vic does a line item, pardon? Somebody needs to mute. Please make sure you mute. When Vic does an approval of a line item adjustment, that'll be handled in we'll show you how that's done in another slide. The first tab, which you've already seen this in the current worksheet, just has a summary. Everything on this page, Abdi has filled out before you get the worksheet or the workbook, the claim form. Some new things on this is your district number is a drop-down box, and I'll show you that later. When the drop-down box is selected, it automatically populates your school district name if you're a school district, and it automatically populates your approved indirect cost rate, which on the worksheet you already received, it says 8%, but that's one of the things that we're updating and fixing. Your approved indirect cost rate for school districts is what the school finance team calculates for you and posts on the website, and that's the max you can charge. And if you're a nonprofit, community agency, if you have an approved indirect cost rate, we'll talk about that in a little bit, you will need to send that to us. And if you don't have one, we'll talk about that in a little bit, and how you can go about charging indirect costs if you choose to. School districts, we already had this question come up where a school district said, we don't want to charge indirect costs. So on the summary page, this is the only thing that you will go in and do, is you just simply here where it says charge indirect costs, select yes or no. There's a drop-down box and you just select no. And then the rest of the claim forms will automatically assume that you're not charging indirect costs. So this is an example of what a building claim form is. The budget column is protected. You cannot change numbers there. Anything that's in orange is an unprotected cell where you can enter information. The green cells are formulas that calculate totals. Down towards the bottom under indirect costs, it automatically calculates your indirect costs maximums for you. So for those of you who do charge indirect costs, it may help you determine what your total journal entry needs to be for that. And if you have questions about indirect costs, especially if you're a school district and you're not familiar with indirect costs, we can have a conversation at maybe another time about the benefits of maybe charging indirect costs and how that all works. So here, this is one of the new features of the worksheet. This is an example of a Building 2 tab where there are some error messages that pop up if you either are under your budget on the left side, your budget is under the 5% minimum that you're required to spend on professional development, or if student access, evaluation, or admin costs go over your allowed maximums in the budget, it's going to give you an error message. Because this is all kind of new, and because we took the information and populated your budget amounts by building based on the D2 form in your original applications. Now you're seeing error messages here. You will have a one-time opportunity this month when you submit your first quarter claim to go to the website, use the new D2 form, correct, Abdi? The new D2 form that's on the website. Submit an accurate budget. If we've taken things from your application and put it in the wrong line item in your budget, use that D2 form to submit the corrections to us, and we will update your workbook, your claim workbook, and send it back to you so that you start this year with accurate numbers in your budget column. And if you have questions on that, you can call Vic or me or Abdi, or we can do a conference call and get that figured out. For some of you, your budgets may be just fine, just the way they are. But if we've made some kind of error in where we classified the numbers, then just let us know. Communicate by email, phone call, whatever. So that's an example of when you get an error message And later on, in future years especially, as you see these error messages, and I think these pop up in the D2 form also. I'm not sure, because I didn't do the D2 form. It gives you an idea if you need to make some adjustments, and it helps you better budget going forward. This is just to show you the bottom of the claim form, which is very similar to the old one. It keeps track of your line item balances down here, tells you where to send the claim form. Over here in the affidavit, you're going to sign. In this yellow box, you can type in the name of the person who's doing the signature. And then here's where you do your line item adjustments. Very similar to last time. I'll show you in a later slide, we'll talk about the mechanics of doing line item adjustments, which it's more automated than it's not just enter it. You have to actually type some things in here, and it automates the update to your budget. So here's whoops. Here's where we start filling out the claim report. These warning messages over here on the left are still all about the budget. So in this case, you've started filling out the claim form for the first quarter, and these warning messages are still here, but they're about the budget, not about the claim form. You'll notice down at the bottom, and I didn't, yeah, the indirect, this line over here where my cursor is, if you can see my cursor, that's the automatic calculation of indirect costs for each quarter. And indirect costs can only be calculated on actual expenditures. So this is if you choose to not charge indirects, you go back to the summary tab, you say no, and this automatically calculates to 0. So this is really similar to the old claim form, other than we have just more categories. And we hope the categories, for those of you who are school districts, the categories are kind of intended to more closely align with how you have to do your school accounting according to the Uniform Financial Accounting Rules. So we hope this form helps make that easier to know where you're classifying your expenditures. Here, when we get into quarter 4, you will also get warning messages over here at the right. And these warning messages are telling you that you're either under budget, or you're underspending in professional development, or you've overspent in one of the other categories, student access, evaluation, or admin. And so the warning message for professional development is something that if Vic sees this, he's going to be calling you. You will not be allowed to submit a claim. I mean, you can submit it and the warning message will be there, but we will not be reimbursing you if you're overspent in a category on this right side. And these maximums and minimums are calculated based on your original budget, not on your actual expenditures. So in this case, the original budget for this sample school district was $48,000. If year to date you had only spent $24,000, your minimums and maximums don't depend on that $24,000. They depend on the 48. So that may be a question some of you want further information on later, but we can talk about that later. So professional development. On this slide, so you're going to complete, along with your claim form, you're going to complete the professional development activity report. Professional development, for those of you who are school districts, when you have your staff attending professional development, when you pay them, you are paying them their salary and benefits out of their regular instructional or admin payroll accounts. And that's required by UFA, right? So you can't change how you're going to code the salaries and benefits for the people for that day that they're in professional development all day, or 2 hours or whatever. But on the professional development form activity report, which it's this report, there's actually now a column where you will give the title of the training, the number of staff that attended, and then you will compute the actual salary and benefit cost for the people who attended that day and put it in this column on this page. And there's a, this is a spreadsheet, so it's going to automatically calculate if it was $150, then you see that at the bottom. So on that page, you'll complete this. This gets submitted with your claim form. On the claim form, I think I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. There is line row 21 for the people who are the instructional people. You will enter in this line a negative number, a number for the admin people who are attending in this line down here. It's line 40, and it will automatically move the value into professional development. So that's how you're going to, this is a situation where uniform financial accounting requires you to do something one way, and what you're actually allowed to claim as professional development for the grant, you can't actually account for that on your books and records. And so we've provided this adjustment line to help you get those numbers in the right place for the grant. I hope that makes sense. So next, we'll do line item adjustments. And some of you have this. You can see here, whoops, this is an example. So this is the area where you do line item adjustments. This is an example, and I'll pull up the spreadsheet here in a second and show you how you actually do this. Most of the cells within the line item adjustment area are drop-down boxes. You will select the quarter that you're doing the line item adjustment for. You will select where you're transferring money from, and it's a drop-down box. You will select the drop-down box to say where you want the money to go to, how much. The category, whether it's from the student program column or the family literacy column, that's a drop-down box. And then on the next slide, if you look on this slide, you can see the budget. Nothing has changed on the budget from the original budget at this point. Not until you have your call with Vic and he says, yes, I approve this. Then that final step, you will then enter the date that it was Vic approved it in this column, and then it will automatically update your budget. That's how you get your budget updated. So you no longer have to retype budget numbers in, and it will all be handled through the line item adjustment section. Then next quarter, so you save your workbook. Next quarter, if you have another line item adjustment, you do the same thing. We'll work through with you if you have something that if you want to move money out of the student program into the family literacy column, you probably have to do two line items, which count as one. If you're just keeping it within the same column, you just have to fill out one line item. Again, here we put the date in. This changed the family literacy budget. And you can see that we went from 276. No, oh, the 1,244. So the 244, as soon as the date goes in, it went to 1,244. And then finally, you're going to do your claim submission. You're going to type your name and the position here of the person's submitting the report. Same as the old form, other than you just have some places to type some things in. And then just real quickly, indirect costs for non-government grantees. So this does not apply to school districts, but we wanted to make you aware that there's a section of the Code of Federal Regulations, 2 CFR 414F. This is a uniform guidance for federal grants. Any non-federal entity, if you've never received a negotiated indirect cost rate, you can charge a de minimis rate. And this is a quote. I didn't quote it, but yeah, I should have. A de minimis rate of 10%. This is what's allowed in law. However, for the 21st century grant, your max is the 8% cap for admin because indirect costs are part of administrative costs. If you're a non-government grantee and you have an approved agreement with your cognizant federal agency, then we need you to send that to us. If you don't have an agreement, you're allowed to use the de minimis rate, and you just need to communicate with us that you intend to do that. And you can do that through the claim form by selecting yes. And then now we're to questions and feedback. So do I unmute the phone at this point? Unmute and hi. This is where I don't know that much about how to do this. So.
Anybody that unmutes their phone can ask a question verbally, and then I'm going to.
And you can type in the Zoom chat, and we can hear your messages.
The chat. So if anybody types in there, I'll be able to read what they've typed.
And it may be that you'll start having questions when you actually get the claim form and you're trying to fill it out. And obviously you can give one of us a call and say, I can't figure out how to make this work right. So as I said, here's the activity report for professional development, which you were required to do before, but now you're actually going to be doing some calculations in it. Vic, did you want sign-in sheets? Yeah. So your sign-in sheets, you'll keep those, and they'll substantiate what you're reporting to us here, but you do not have to submit them unless Vic asks for them.
Oh, we've got some questions.
When are you? Okay.
Oh, here they come. First question from Cassie. First, when are we receiving the new forms along with the PD forms? That depends on after we find out the forms.
This week.
Okay, next question.
Did you all hear that? This week, hopefully this week, by next week for sure.
Next question is from Lynn Redwell. Have we already received the updated claim form? If not, when will they? It's the same question, right? Basically, when will they be sent out? Which we precise again with conditional features, which is the one we right now.
Yep.
And that's the one we got coming next week. Okay. The next question is from David, and he says, we've been told to upload our grants. How was that done? I have sent out instructions on either the Iowa grant system, especially to the community groups. They've got a couple of sheets that were sent out, and I'll resend that to David so that he'll know.
So just to clarify, because I see one here, like school districts will be submitting their claims on CASA. The community organizations will be submitting their claims through Iowa Grants. The claim worksheet, the professional development worksheet, and any other attachments are things that you complete the general ledger. So you'll have these forms filled out. The Iowa Grants and CASA will be similar to what you did last year. And then you attach these 3 forms: the claim form, the professional development form, the general ledger, detailed general ledger. You'll attach all of that to either Iowa Grants or you'll upload it into CASA. Is that, and so the claim deadline, this is Teresa's question. The claim deadline is the same because it's all one thing. There's no separate sending the claim form. Although if you're making a line item adjustment and you want Vic to look at that ahead of time, you can always email him these attachments to look at too.
Okay, next question from Barb Schmitz. Concerning professional development, we have people doing PD that are doing that in kind. The grant pays the fees to attend, but does not pay the teachers to attend. Can't be the area where we pay teachers blank if we do not pay.
So,
I don't think we require them to,
when you say you have people attending that they're doing that in kind, they're not your employees. That if they're your employees, that's not in kind because they've been paid for the time that they were there. So I'm assuming these are people who are not your employees.
we don't want contract or staff
Yeah.
that are not.
Or maybe volunteers.
Of what? If they're volunteers, then no, because there's no cost for a volunteer. So in one instance, I know that there are one of the arrangements for personnel is a contracted service that the district purchases from another entity. And so if those people are also attending the PD, then the contract payment has some PD time built into it because the other entity is actually paying for those people's time. So you may have to work with your contracted entity to determine what the pay equivalent is for the people attending the PD that are contracted employees. This first claim, we may have some humps we have to get over in trying to figure some of this out, but yeah, that's a situation you probably had before where those people were attending PD and you were still recording that all as a contracted service.
Right. We need more details from you via email to, give you a specific answer. Okay. And, we're happy to do that. Let's go to the next question. This is again from Cassie Hurst. We have PD every month for our staff. Our staff is paid at different rates. How do we use the PD form to, as instructed, but with a different staff at a different pay rate?
So I'm just gonna, this is how I would do it if I were at the district or at your nonprofit. Nonprofits have a little more flexibility because you don't have to follow uniform financial accounting like the school districts do. But school districts, we have to do that. And so if I were at the school district, I would probably say, my process would probably be, I have a day where we had PD, and it was, say it was 2 hours. And so I have a list of the people who attended that PD. I would probably do a spreadsheet because I love Excel. Just saying, maybe some of you don't like Excel, but I love Excel. I would probably set up a spreadsheet, put each person's name on it. Here's the number of hours they were at the PD. Here's their hourly pay rate. here's their benefits. And more than likely, you're only paying FICA and IPERS. Most of these people don't, even if they're teachers, their other benefits are tied to their teaching contract, not to the 21st century contract. So FICA and IPERS, pay rate, do a spreadsheet, calculate the total, put that total on the PD activity report, and then that amount gets adjusted on these lines. And here, I'm just going to show you here on this worksheet, I put in a -100 and it automatically moved it to professional development. So again, yeah, if you're at different pay rates, it's going to be in that sub spreadsheet, which you don't have to send to us. You can if you want. You can submit it along with all the rest of your forms as an attachment, but you don't have to. But that's how I would do it. I would just do a spreadsheet that shows that.
Okay, next question from Beth Christopher. In the past, the superintendent has signed the claim form. Do I put his name or mine? And that's from a school district, so it would be really neither, because they're going to be using CASA, and CASA wants the school business office to be submitting these forms.
Yep. If you want your superintendent to sign off on everything, I guess that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's either the superintendent or the business office would be able to submit it. CASA. Iowa grants, a little more flexible. Okay, the next question from Dawn and Caitlin. I have several questions. Can I schedule a call with Deb for guidance? Yes, I think so. And just for clarification, to hear correctly that the claim forms would be sent and have been updated and will be resent in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be quicker than 2 weeks. We will try to get it out this week. Next question from Kathy.
And yes, you can call me. We can schedule something this week if you need to, if you want to.
Okay, next question. With so many changes and not being in receipt of the spreadsheet yet, is our deadline still November 30th? As of today, yes. However, you know, I will certainly advocate for extending that, but I don't have as much control with these two different online systems as I had in the past when you were just mailing in the forms to me. So we're going to have to, you know, work with that.
This is a question for the school districts, and maybe Vic knows the answer to this. I don't know the answer to this. Are you able to submit today? Are you able to submit your claims in CASA? We don't know if that's, I don't know if that's opened up for functional yet.
I don't know. As of yesterday, I didn't see the whole thing open in CASA. So after this meeting, I'm going to go find out why and try to see, you know, what's going on. And as soon as I have something definitive, I will send everybody out an update on these systems, because it's not just you folks in the field, it's us too. In fact, we need to get Abdi access to CASA today. I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah.
It's something that we are working on, you know.
So the November 30th date may be a little fuzzy anyway because of our changeover to the CASA. I think Iowa Grants is up and running. I've seen several of the community organizations. You've already put your information into Iowa Grants and got that basic, that upfront part done. So, Vic, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I'll try to talk louder. That's
Oh,
probably
Becky said you submitted Title I yesterday, so the claim form must be there somewhere then.
okay. Well,
Cool, thanks, Becky. Hopefully it was, oh, now Cassie says, no, not in CASA.
Ah, uh,
Oh,
So
oh, maybe there's some kind of issue.
there's two systems. Two systems. One of them is
other title programs were open for submission, but not 21st century. Okay,
I'm going to find out what's going on.
Vic's gonna find out on that one. And it may, I don't know why it wouldn't be open yet. It might have just been a glitch that they didn't open that section. Oh, Becky couldn't do Title 2A. Okay, we'll let Steve know that about not having a submit button, Becky.
Okay, is there a new D2 form that we can have access to so we can align our budgets with this new format?
The new D2 form is on the grant is it on this page, Vic?
It's actually found www.
It's right here. So if you go to Educate Iowa.
Oh yeah, it's on the department page as well.
Right. So the new D2 form is on the Iowa website. I always go up here to the top, choose the A to Z index, hit the number 2, 21st Century Community Learning Centers, and then about halfway down the page, right here, Appendix A, Required Forms, is the new D2 quarterly budget. And it's an Excel spreadsheet. It looks similar to the claim form. So you open it, here it is. Here's the new. So you'll use column D and E. Make sure you put your site name. And if you have, I know there's a few grantees where there's at least one that has 6 sites. So use 2 forms. Just make sure that the site name is up here and enough identifying information that we know where it's coming from so that we can get it to the right building. But this is the form, and there's enough for 3 sites here. And Abdi said, don't mix cohorts. Make sure you have the cohort identified. Right.
Lynn wants to know, can your PowerPoint be shared?
Yes.
Okay, so if you send that to me, I'll send it out to everybody via email, and then we'll post it on the Iowa Alliance in our resource section.
Did you all hear that? Vic is going to send the PowerPoint to everyone, and he's also going to post it on the Alliance website so that you'll have access to it, and the people who couldn't attend today. And we're recording this too.
The posting probably won't be Friday. I think it's on Thursdays, and by Friday they should have it.
So
Okay.
if you didn't hear that, the posting of the PowerPoint should be up by Friday on the Alliance website.
Okay, next question from Don and Caitlin. Is the D2, with the D2 form, is there guidance on what is allowable in each line item within each category?
We're working on that, actually. We have a guidance document that we're working on, and also for school districts anyway, some guidance on how to actually, what UFA accounts go with what line items in the authorized activity categories. In general, program are those things that have to do with what you're doing directly with kids. Professional development is when you're in a learning environment for instructional and administrative staff, the staff that work in the program. Student access, anything that has to do with transporting kids or getting them safely from one facility to another. It could be such things as for young children, if you have to have supervision as they're passing through the hallway, the cost of what you hire someone to do that supervision of getting them back and forth. Things like, but transportation, yeah, busing. Also things that have to do with communicating with parents for things such as pickup time and that kind of thing. So access, I know for one grantee, we've worked with this before too, like the cost of having communication devices that are involved, that you use for making sure students get where they need to be. Evaluation is strictly what you pay your outside evaluator. You do not here, you're not allowed to code the time that your staff spend providing data to evaluators is a cost of admin, generally. In the evaluation line, it's only what you pay to your outside evaluator, the costs, and cost to publish the evaluation. If you have to make copies, or if there's a cost to post it on your website or something like that. But it's not for staff, internal staff. And then admin is your indirect costs and anything that involves the administration of the program that is not directly providing services to students. So HR type things for school districts, you cannot charge anything that is the function 2500 or 2600 falls within your indirect cost rate. So you can never charge those costs to the grant. For community partners, it depends on what kind of indirect cost plan you have. And we can talk about that individually. What about evaluation tools that are, what kind of evaluation tools do you purchase? This is from Don and Caitlin. What about evaluation tools that are used to assess programs? Are they allowed in eval line item? What kind of tools? So tell us what kind of tools you're.
You mentioned some kind of software that's for evaluation.
Vic will look into that question and get back
Yeah,
to
it looks
you.
like it would be just general.
Yeah.
We skipped one. We skipped one that
Yeah.
says will staff travel.
Where did staff travel go? It's
Yeah.
under other. And we may not have that in the right line item. Staff travel would go under other though.
And there was another question about the enrichment providers. And that would fall under your contracted services.
Yes. Personnel are people who are in your employ. Contracted services is if you're entering into an agreement with another entity, they're paying the employee as their employee, they bill you for those services. That's contracted service.
Yes, that's an explanation sheet.
Yes. Our software is easy reports purchase. We put that into evaluation in the past. I don't know what that is.
It's attendance, and it's specific for 21st century.
That's attendance, is not evaluation, right?
Well, it's attendance and what you're doing in the program. And so it could be an evaluation tool because it's gathering all the data that goes into local evaluation electronically.
Okay. I think some of these questions and I don't know how to, do we get to save these questions?
Yeah, I believe I can save it as a file.
Okay, Vic is going to save all of the chat questions, and some of them we may have to look at and get back to you. I think this is Cassie. Yeah, is there going to be an explanation? Whoops, that just shifted. About what I'm talking about, something that explains what each activity and what does other mean. Yes, that's going to be the guidance document we put out. Some of that I'm waiting for some information to come back from Janice and Denise. Those of you from the school districts know Janice and Denise. We have a couple areas that we're not sure. Janice isn't sure which function code she wants you to use for that particular type of activity. And so the guidance document will tell you more of that. And so this is one of those things where it'd be really nice for you to have that guidance document right now. But as I said, I'm waiting for Janice to give me some information for part of it. And then just because we want to be careful about getting guidance out to districts, everything has to be thoroughly vetted, reviewed. We have to do things like 508 compliance for accessibility, for handicap accessibility of documents. There's a number of hoops we have to jump through when we put guidance out. So
we can send it via email because
yeah,
we don't have to necessarily post it on the website.
Right.
Right.
So some of that is just it needs another set of eyes before it can go out. Oh, Cassie cannot hear you at all, Vic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The list is getting long, so I kind of lost track.
Can you guys hear me better now? You get a little feedback. Okay. There's been a lot of changes this year, more than what I've seen in years. And we just have to deal with it. I mean, I can't say that, no, we're not going to use CASA or Iowa grants. And once your business folks get used to the spreadsheet, there's a lot of things in there that'll make their jobs easier. It's just that there's a lot of stuff and it's all new. And we're all in this together. So feel free to email us with questions and we will do our best to get them answered as quickly as possible.
So I'm looking at a question about professional development and in-kind. The grant pays the fees, but you do not pay for the teacher time. So you're not paying them extra while they're attending the PD. I see how you're saying that. I would say, at least for now, like you would want to put the title of the training, the category, the start end time, the number of people, and just in the attendee salary then say 0. At least Vic knows they were there. And we can look at possibly calculating something later on as to how that fits in with the professional development line item minimums. But at least let's get a start there, that you're at least reporting it. And over in the additional information, you can just write a note that those staff attended, but they were not paid for their time. So let's start there. But do report them. We have here, so we talked about that one. And this may be the question about the superintendent has signed the claim form in the past. Because we're submitting this and through CASA, we may need to remove that. Just there won't be a signature. How do you do that, Vic? Do you actually still print the claim forms and give them to Abdi with all the signatures on
No,
them?
you can see it in the Iowa grants system.
So nobody's actually signing the forms anymore.
Well, they can sign it and then scan it and then upload it.
Okay, did you all hear that? As far as signatures go, we need to work on that one probably.
Yeah,
At least
especially
someone, at least someone would possibly scan it. And if we have a question, we can talk to that person. Or at least, you know, but
Okay,
it's not, efficient that would be not.
okay. I know for some of the school districts, in our way old system where you used to submit your CARs, you didn't really digitally sign, but you could sign your superintendent's name, and that was all handled within the upload system. So it wasn't a physical signature, but it was considered an electronic signature.
Yeah.
So you could possibly do that with your superintendent's permission if you still want them to be responsible.
Program coordinator, for 21st century, maybe it's the from or we should not make something that this is about the movie.
Okay, so I just put this on the screen. You should all see this, right? You can all see. I'll add this to the PowerPoint so that
Oh. Okay.
so that you have my contact information to call. Going through the questions here real quick. If you have specific questions about your APR or software you use to complete APR or evaluation stuff, those can all go to Vic. I know we have some free tools available, so I'm sure he wants to be talking to you about what you're using and whether there's something cheaper available. So,
Well, we've got a committee that we're looking at statewide software, but we've kind of put this on hold because I want to get the finances in place, get our people paid, then we'll move on to the next project. It's a matter of priorities. I don't want to be telling people that, oh yeah, wait, you're going to have to wait 2 months because I'm working on this new software system.
so I hope you all heard that about the evaluation software and APR stuff. So again, I have another, there was another chat question about the affidavit section and signing it. So when we first set the spreadsheet up and that whole affidavit section, that was when we were still doing everything by paper. So again, we probably need to revisit whether that's even an applicable.
We might want to claims.
Yeah. So what Vic just said is Matt Coulter is our CFO, and he's really the one that needs to sign off on that part, whether we still have the affidavit section or not. So it's part of your Iowa grants or your CASA claim submission too. So we might be duplicating effort by having you sign it here too, but we'll look at that. Even if we tell you you don't have to sign it, it will still be there for this year because it would take a lot of time to just get rid of that for everybody. Oh, so Christy could not hear Vic about the APR software, but so there are systems out there. The state, as a state agency, Vic is looking, they're working with a group, a committee to say that again. First, he's going to get on speakerphone so you can hear.
We've got a committee and we've looked at bumping up one of 3 systems we're already using. But I put that on hold as one of the projects so that I could get the finance system going. Another thing I put on hold is moving the applications from online. That's going to be eventually happening where you'll apply for this grant online as well. So, I've got a whole list of stuff, and we're going to take it in order by priority. So I'm sure everybody's going to appreciate that we don't try to take on all of these things at once. This finance system is going to be a big challenge for us now. Okay, let me see if I can save these chats here. I can. There you go. Yep.
So Vic is saving the chat box stuff. For those of you who want to talk more about the accounting stuff, you have my name, email address. Denise and Janice are also available to help talk about accounting stuff for the school districts. For the community organizations, when we get the guidance out, it says in there we would like you to be as consistent as possible with what schools have to do, but we know you have your own reporting requirements too, so and you do have a little bit more flexibility than the school districts do. Sorry, schools. Thanks, Dawn and Caitlin. Enjoy your day too.
Okay.
So
Down at the bottom, I saved the questions. Now you can click to end the meeting for all.
okay, we're gonna sign off. Where do I do that?
Down there's a little red link
No.
just past the chat.